This is the Sigma 18-35 1.8 art lens. This is nearly 10 years old. Now, I've only had it for a couple of years. Now, you lot should have told me to buy this lens a long time ago. You didn't. There was radio silence from you lot. I had no comments, James, get the 18th. No one done it. Anyway, in this video, we're going to be talking about the Sigma 18-35 Art Series lens, and we're going to break down my favourite shots that I've ever got with this particular lens, and how the lens's attributes, help the style of those shots, and just break down them shots stylistically and story-wise. It's going to be fun, mate. Hang about, don't go, you can go and get a coffee and that if you want, but come back and we can chat. It's going to be more fun than you know. Anyway, let's get stuck in. Bosh. What's going on, you lot? I hope you're all sweet. So, thanks to today's sponsor, which is Storyblocks. However, the Sigma 18-35 1.8 is the star of this bloody show, mate. I cannot tell you how much I absolutely love this lens. I should have got it earlier. I knew a load of people that had this lens a long time ago, but I never got it because it didn't have autofocus, it ain't full frame, and I just start getting arsey about things. But when I got the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, I knew this was the only lens that I really wanted to fly on that camera. And my God, is it amazing. Now, I've only had this lens for 2 years, and unfortunately, that's exactly like when the old pandemic hit. And yeah, I've had a bit of a stinker since, because obviously I can't use it to its potential travel. And, anyway, the next couple of years are going to be good, I'm telling you. So what I thought I'd do is I'd kind of like break down this lens, what I personally like about it, not from a super technical standpoint, because the usual suspects can sort that out. I'm going to be going over some of my favourite shots I've ever got with this lens, and what the actual attributes of the lens aided the shot. So for example, the very first one is actually one that you lot might not have seen if you haven't gone and seen Peter Lindgren's Rivals 3, which he very kindly asked me to be a part of. And one of my favourite shots I've ever got with this lens was the intro shot to my character, where the character is essentially like, drinking loads of Red Bulls, a little bit of a dirty, techie bastard, and then launches a can of Red Bull over his shoulder. The Red Bull can kind of wraps around and lands in the foreground, and the subject is in the background out of focus. I just love that shot. The lighting, the mise-en-scène, everything in the frame looks great. If I do say so myself, I did dress it. Now, I shot that shot at 20mm on the Sigma 18-35, all the way down at 1.8. The good thing about this lens is it's super fast. 1.8 for a wide-angle lens like this is incredibly fast. And I actually ended up resting the camera on a sandbag on the floor. So the camera was all the way down on the floor. This is the Blackmagic 6K Pro. And I was literally just propping up the front of the lens with a sandbag. And I just love that shot. It kind of intros us to the character, intros us to the scene. That was the first kind of wide shot of, the environment that we're in. And I wanted that environment to tell a bit of a story in itself. We only saw close-ups previously of a can, some fast action, which kind of shows that this character's a little bit scatty, a little bit, kind of dirty, because obviously the whole scene is absolutely filthy. And then we kind of pull out to that wide shot. The cans in the foreground give a little bit of the story away, shows that this person's clearly an absolute nutter. And then obviously out of focus in the background, we're kind of leaving a little bit to the imagination to then later in the film bringing that shot into focus. But that shot where we do throw the can behind is probably one of my favourites. I love it when you kind of have a bit of a subject in the foreground, subject's blurred out in the background so you don't really know the full story. And believe it or not, the can, I didn't really want to tell you like this, but I'm going to tell you a little bit of a secret. Don't tell no one. Basically, that can wasn't in the shot that I threw back. I tried so many times to throw that can behind my head, roll out of frame and roll back in. It was just never going to happen, was it? Do you know what I mean? So what I've done was I kept the camera in the same spot, and then I literally done another shot just rolling the can in, cut them in the frame, and it worked seamlessly. No one knew. Not even Peter when I sent it to him. So Peter, this might be the first time you're finding that. Number 2, the second shot I want to go over is my intro shot to the We Build 2 campaign that I've done. That intro shot, I spent a hell of a lot of time kind of getting ready. I actually used my mate Mike to shoot it for me, but I had to kind of, set up the scene, set everything up in the layout. This was about 6 in the morning. So Mike, big up you for actually getting up, because I know that you weren't very well that day. Upstairs bedroom. What's he been doing in there? Hey, he's done a turn.
He said he was going to give me a pre-warning.
Now, that particular shot, I used a dolly, not a dolly, a slider. I used a slider on the floor, and then I stuck the camera on a gimbal. I stuck it on like my Crane 2. Camera on a gimbal, gimbal on a slider, pushing in. I always find that when you're traveling, it's so hard to get like a nice slider shot. When you've got like crappy sliders that are really, really cheap, they're not gonna work well at all. So a good thing that you can do is get your slider, stick a gimbal on the slider, slide the gimbal along on the slider. That gives you a really, really nice, solid push-in shot without kind of the up and down movement. So that particular shot was the intro scene to what is my adventure journey shooting with the new Weebill 2. I like to kind of give away as much as I can story-wise, if that's my intention, in the very first shot. You'll notice a lot of my films, I push in for the very first shot. I don't know what it is. Subconsciously, it just makes a lot of sense to me to push in on my first shot, and I want to kind of slowly ease the audience in, and I don't know what it is about a push in. It just makes me feel like I'm being introduced to the scene. And in that scene, I try to like give away a lot of things. So you can obviously see the environment where we are. You can see obviously the subject in the frame. You can see the laptop, which kind of like shows that this person's probably a creator. We've got the gimbal on the side, the camera on the other side, and it kind of ties all of this stuff together that we've got a creator maybe out in nature somewhere that's kind of taking in sounds. That was the whole idea of that particular film, and I really hope that the intro shot actually aided that. I did shoot at 1.8, and obviously we wasn't using any autofocus, it was solely on manual. The next shot actually cut into the gimbal itself, so we kind of got that nice establishing shot, then push in at 35mm. That second shot was at 35mm, so really tight, kind of pushing in and tilting down at the same time with the gimbal. And this lens smashed it. I'm actually a really big fan of things being out of focus and then coming into focus, which you'll see in my next shot. Now on to shot number 3. This was during the film Create Without Limitations, the film that I shot with my boy Jack Mould. This particular shot was of my script at the end of that particular film. Now if you lot know the film and you've seen it, it's actually a dream. Sorry to give it away if you haven't already seen it, but I assume a lot of you have. I wanted this film to like resemble a dream, and I wanted to kind of show the editing process, the shooting process, and kind of creating without any limitations, almost like you're in that dream state and you can kind of have control over everything. And in this final shot, that is where I kind of gave away that this was actually a dream. This wasn't actually a film, for example. So in that final shot, the camera pushes in. Again, this was on a slider with a gimbal on top, pushing in and tilting down at the same time. I had to shoot this in 60 frames a second to slow it down and make it stable, and because the shot would have just been way too fast if I'd have shot it at 24 or 25 frames. So I shot it at 60p, slowed it down by 40%. We slowly push in, the script is out of focus, and as we get closer and closer and closer to that script, we slowly reveal that it's a dream. You can see that I've crossed out film and put dream underneath it. I just thought that was a really nice kind of like light bulb moment at the end of the film. It kind of gives the audience an idea of this whole thing that they've just watched, and then at the end, boom, they understand it. I hope that's what everyone got. As filmmakers, as creators, like, you can only put out your best, you know? You can only give people an incentive to understand what you was trying to do in that film, and that is basically what I've done. I'm not too bothered if other people don't understand it or not, because to me I really did understand it, and I'm not out here making films to make other people happy. I'm trying to like make films that make me feel fulfilled. I've gone on a tangent here. Back to this lens. Anyway, shooting at 1.8, kind of give it that like dreamy feel, you know? Keep that background out of focus, nice and blurry, and we slowly come into frame. That was actually shot at about 20mm, so it's still actually quite wide, but the fact that we're at a 1.8, we're really nice and shallow, gives it that soft, dreamy feel. Anyway, before I go any further, let's have a little bit of a shout out to my guys over at Storyblocks. So if you don't know Storyblocks, Storyblocks is a huge online library of stock video and stock assets. There's over 1 million different assets that you can download completely royalty free for any kind of use. Personal, corporate, commercial, any kind of use, mate, you name it, it's all sweet. So for example, I'm actually using some Storyblocks bits right now. Like, look around the edges here, yeah? I've actually added a grain overlay. Now let me take that grain overlay off, yeah? Like, look at the banding. It looks nasty. Now I'm actually gonna give a shout out to someone, because someone actually recommended that I do this. Dan Osborne, you're a legend, mate. You told me about this. I didn't even know you could do this. I've added some film grain, yeah? And it's kind of like just completely removed my banding. Dan, I owe you a couple of bevs, mate. Anyway, back to Storyblocks. I actually got this grain overlay from Storyblocks. That's just like one of the reasons I use Storyblocks all the time. Here's a good example. Storyblocks have got a ton of diverse content, and they haven't just got video in stock. They've got Premiere Pro assets, templates, titles, anything you could possibly need, they have more than likely got it. So if you think you can benefit from one of their really affordable subscriptions, I'm going to leave a link in the first line of my description so that you can go and check them out. They are honestly sick. Anyway, on to the fourth and final shot. So the final shot that we got with the Sigma 18-35 was actually shot by my boy, Mikey V. Now this particular shot we didn't actually plan. We didn't have any, idea behind the shot. We actually just traveled to a waterfall when we were staying in Bali to get a shot for my campaign with a Weeble 2. We come across this waterfall, and this particular shot, for me, I just feel like everything is in sync. Combined with the music that we put on there, it's just so epic.
They are a happening, and everything is simply a happening.
Everything kind of comes together, the environment, the subjects in the frame, the wind, the leaves in the foreground, the background, the water coming down. It's like nature is just all together. I just think it's pretty sick. Now, there's not actually any story or any reason behind why we got this shot. I genuinely just think it's one of the most aesthetically pleasing. Loads of movement, loads of energy. Everything's kind of lined up perfectly. We got the two waterfalls either side. We got the subjects bang in the middle of the frame. We got all this foreground going on. It's just a recipe of absolute goodness and pengness and beauty and loveliness. So I'm just super happy with that shot. Now, I'm pretty sure that was shot at around f4. Obviously, we got a lovely, nice, soft background, soft foreground with them leaves kind of flowing, soft water coming down off them waterfalls, and it just looks so damn nice. Now, this lens has a load of attributes that I don't really like. It's super sharp, and I don't really like super sharp images. The reason I like it so much when it's paired up with a Blackmagic is the fact that the Blackmagic isn't super sharp. It's super detailed, but there isn't a ton of sharpness in there. So when you actually shoot on this lens with the Blackmagic, it kind of levels itself out. It's just very clinical. It hasn't got a load of character to it. So what I do like to do is I like to add some overlays, add some character to it, some grain in the edit. That kind of gives it a little bit more of an artistic feel, because it is an incredible starting point because everything's so clean, so sharp. But after that, you kind of want to, mix it up a little bit and give it a little bit of essence. However, this lens, super affordable, easily one of my most favourite lenses I've ever owned, and I definitely regret not buying it earlier. But to be fair, I didn't really have a camera that it would have worked well with. Canon mount, EFS, it's not even full frame. Yeah, I got it when I needed it, basically. Tell me if you've got this lens. If you have got it, what do you like about it? How long have you been using it for? What camera do you use it on? And also, I'm going to be doing more of these. I'm going to go over all of my lenses, break down the shots I've got with them, why the lens was good, why the lens might have been crap, because, it might not have actually helped the story. We're all learning, even me, mate. I'm learning new things all the time, and I want to go over my previous work and correct myself when I was wrong. Anyway, people, thanks so much for watching, and I'll be catching you lots in the next one, mate. Oh.